Hello everyone, and welcome back to another RuneScape video. So, with the game as massive as RuneScape, there are going to be a few ideas that don't go so well. Some of them only make it to the first few stages of production, while others are scrapped after they're complete. In today's video, we're going to take a look at 10 things that were scrapped before they could be added to the land of Gielinor. Number 10. Bank-to-bank trading. This update probably never got far along, or perhaps was never even started. This feature was originally planned to be added back in RuneScape 2, when it was still being developed. Jagex wanted to introduce this to replace what is known in RuneScape Classic as certing. A cert is another name for certificate. Certificates were kind of an archaic form of banknotes, except certificates could hold 5 items. Players would take the items they wanted to turn into certs to NPCs known as certers. This would take quite a long time, as players could only create 6 certs per inventory, meaning quite a few bank trips if you had a lot of things to cert. Not to mention, if you wanted to get a cert turned back into an item, you would have to do the same process. Anyway, instead of Jagex introducing bank-to-bank trading, they just created banknotes instead. Number 9. Eye Rings. This series of 3 rings are dungeoneering rewards that were eventually scrapped. These rewards were called Eye of the Mage, Eye of the Warrior, and Eye of the Ranger. They all mostly served the same purpose, which was to deflect damage. The Eye of the Warrior deflected melee, Eye of the Mage deflected magic, and so on. Before fully being scrapped, Jagex did try and change the effect to make them more useful, but in the end it wasn't enough. Number 8. Truffles. The truffle is an object that existed in RuneScape and was meant to be released multiple times before being scrapped. Its original purpose was that the summoning pet known as a Broav would be able to find them. What you would do after finding them is what led to them being scrapped. Jagex couldn't really come up with any use for them. A few years later, when Jagex released the quest Bringing Home the Bacon, they planned on releasing them again. Instead, this time the quest would reward you with a pet pig that would just hunt truffles. Jagex ended up scrapping it because they couldn't find a use for it once again. According to Mod Phoenix, the only one they could come up with is that it could be really expensive in rare pig food. Number 7. Carpentry. I believe I've discussed this in a past video, but I still enjoy talking about it as it is quite interesting. Back in the early days of RuneScape Classic, an untrainable skill known as carpentry existed. It sat there for quite a long time with really no purpose, and eventually when agility came out, it replaced its spot on the stats menu. So what exactly was carpentry going to be? It was pretty much going to be like construction, but a little different. Player-owned houses would actually exist in the game world in places such as Varrock and Falador. The houses on the east side of Falador and a now removed section of Varrock were going to be just for players. Once the game blew up in popularity, it was clear this could never become a reality, and the idea was scrapped until it was later replaced by construction in RuneScape 2. Number 6. Necronium. Necronium is pretty interesting, as it actually does have some lore behind it. For those unaware of what it was a metal that was going to be used in what, at the time, was an upcoming smithing and mining rework. That rework was sadly never completed. The way you would obtain this metal is by digging through 3rd Age battlegrounds. The metal itself was a combination of bone, 3rd Age metal, and ancient magics. Although I don't believe there was ever concept art for this ore, we are given a description of what it looks like. Before being smithed, it's a black obsidian-like surface. After being smithed, however, it has a dark blue sheen and is still covered of the skulls and bones of the dead, which are said to generate the armor's strength. Overall, a very interesting concept, and it's a shame that the full rework was never completed. Number 5. Prestige. Believe it or not, but RuneScape Skills almost had a Call of Duty-like prestige system. Back on October 10th of 2013, Jagex asked players if they wanted to see the following system introduced. Basically, once you reach level 99 in a skill, you could reset that skill to level 1. After resetting it to level 1, you would gain 1 prestige level. The player would then train it back to level 99, but it would take twice the amount of XP. They never stated how many times you could prestige, but I figured there wasn't a limit. They would also change how high scores worked, as each skill would now be sorted by prestige level first, and then afterwards how much XP the player had in that skill. I can't find the actual poll anymore to see the exact numbers, but Jagex says over 60% of the player base voted no, so the update never happened. Number 4. RuneScape Film. I bet you didn't know RuneScape almost had its own full feature-length film, and not just a documentary. I know this isn't necessarily an update, but I figured I would talk about it anyway. Jagex originally first teased this movie back in 2007, when they polled who should play the Wise Old Man and the Sandwich Lady. Arnold Schwarzenegger is actually voted to be the wise old man, and Angelina Jolie is the sandwich lady. Surprisingly, you can still view this poll on the RuneScape website. Anyway, later in 2009, in a Q&A, ModMMG stated that they were in talks with multiple people about making a movie about the game. He also stated that it wouldn't just be a cartoon either. Not much was heard about this again until 2011, when a new investor at Jagex was once again looking into having a film made, except this time by Hasbro. Since then, everything about this seems to have fizzled out. In my opinion, now that World of Warcraft has their own movie, it only seems right that RuneScape should get their own as well. Number 3. New random events. There are 2 random events that Jagex created, but for some reason never added to RuneScape. The first one is known as the Duke of Bridgelum. Basically what you do is go to the World of Scape rune to help the Duke reassemble cows using pieces of them. The testers said this event was too grotesque and it was pretty quickly scrapped. To be honest though, this is nothing compared to last year's Halloween event in RS3. Anyway, the rewards from this were going to be pieces of the cow outfit that now exist in old school RuneScape. The second update that was never added was Sebastian No. No is the fastest gnome in the world. In this event, you would have to race him through an agility course. Jagex only mentioned this event once before it was soon after cancelled. The event appeared to be fully complete and even had its own song that Mod Ash says is titled Athlete's Foot. If you'd like to listen to that, there will be a link in the description below. Number 2. Valley of the Dead. This update is one that I was extremely excited for, but to be honest had no idea was scrapped. What Valley of the Dead was going to be was a new PvP minigame with Hunger Games and Battle Royale style gameplay. It was first announced at RuneFest 3 and was originally slated for a 2014 release. I'm not too sure why they cancelled this update as it sounds amazing. Not to mention the concept art looks awesome as well. Although I am still bitter that we'll never see this happen in RuneScape 3, Jagex did make up for it when Last Man Standing was released in Old School. To be honest, the old combat system in Old School is probably more suited for a minigame like this anyway. Then again, if Jagex had introduced new abilities for just this game mode, it probably would have been fantastic. I've seen players suggest abilities that would be more on the tactical side and risky to use. Oh well, I can only hope that maybe one day Jagex brings this update back to life. Number 1. God Box Heads. In all honesty, I have no way to explain this one. This update isn't nearly as impressive as some of the other ones, and it's just plain hilarious. I know a lot of you will probably get mad at me for putting this at number 1, but take a look and you'll understand why. Okay, now that you've seen that, you're probably wondering what happened. So, Jagex originally made these to release along with the Kindred Spirits quest. Luckily, they let the player base know about this before launch. Immediately, there was outrage all over the internet, as well as, of course, a few Minecraft jokes. Jagex saw how much players hated these and quickly scrapped them. Jagex did end up using these box heads, though, for papercraft bobbleheads given out at RuneFest in 2015. I can only imagine how bad it would have been if Jagex released these without player feedback. Then again, the jokes on the old school subreddit would have been pretty good.